Bang, we're back live here on the Run Pure Sports channel for a little MMA fight night card. NICOLAU and PEREZ. And I got my boy Dan with me. Hopefully, JBC will be coming in here shortly. But I'm not saying for sure, Dan, because I don't know. Right now, he's a little indisposed, and I won't get into what he's doing. But he should be here at some point during this show. But if not, we'll be able to handle ourselves. Dan, how you doing here on this Saturday? Getting ready for the fight night.
I'm great, man. You caught me at my most caffeinated, like noon, after I've drank like a whole pot of coffee. So I'm excited. I'm ready to go.
Let's go, man. I had my coffee, well, just finishing up my coffee now. Yeah, I feel good, feel ready. I don't care how shitty people think this card is. I'm just glad to have fights back. That week, last week, I mean, granted, the week before we got like the best card ever. So I'm not even going to complain about last week because I was still kind of pumped from the week before's card last week when we didn't have fights. But
last week we also had the Ryan Garcia show last week. So that was all right.
That's true. And I think JBC was on Ryan Garcia too, if I remember correctly, in the bets. So that was a nice, tasty little number. If you were on Garcia, you made some nice giblets there from Garcia. But real quick, Dan, what'd you think of UFC 300? Did it live up to all your expectations? Because it definitely did for me and more.
Like the whole weekend actually like surpassed my expectations because I think they were like pretty high. And, you know, you don't rule out the possibility of like, you know, it might not live up to like everything you're thinking. So manage them. But no, it like far exceeded my expectations just from like beginning to end, all the fights. You know, the Bo Nickel fight, not the most exciting, but still like had its moments of like, you know, humor. But so yeah, even the more like underwhelming, even like Holly Holm and Kayla Harrison, like it was fun to watch Kayla Harrison's debut and just like absolutely manhandle Holly Holm. Like, so even the stuff that I wasn't that excited for before the card turned out to be great. And of course, like the Holloway knockout is just like, I've never experienced something like that live. I lost my mind. Everybody was losing their mind. Like it was just, it was an incredible moment. And like holding a Max Holloway ticket and watching him invite Gaethje to the center of the ring was just like, because, you know, that was my favorite bet that I gave out at the end of the show. I was like, Max Holloway, let's do it. And he's got the fight won. He invites him to the center of the ring. I'm like, no, don't do it. And then to just knock Gaethje out in the last second, when in the lead up all week, all anybody seemed to be talking about was like, oh, like Gaethje's power, he's going to catch Max, and then it just turned out to be the exact opposite. Incredible. And then to cap it off, Pereira making short work of Hill. I enjoyed that immensely. So
yeah, I'm sure you did. I mean, the good thing, we were all on the Holloway side. I think all three of us on the show were all on Holloway. So we definitely got that right. It was your favorite bet. I did not get the Hill Pereira fight right. You, I think, were the sole person that got that one right from the show. And the Harrison fight, the best thing, I'm not saying that I got everything right, because I definitely did not get everything right on UFC 300. But my breakdown was pinpointed on that fight, which was Holly Holmes. She needs to clinch. She's older now. She needs to engage the clinch. And the one thing you can't do is try and engage in a clinch with Kayla Harrison or wrestle her. And she took it a step forward and tried to wrestle her. And I was like, right away, Dan, when I saw that, I was like, she's fucked. Like literally, she's just absolutely fucked. And yeah, that's exactly what happened. And Holly Holmes got her ass whooped, and it was fun to watch. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Kayla Harrison going forward. I think outside of the Holloway fight, what was your second favorite fight on the card?
I mean, it's all a blur now, right? I mean,
come on. Does that fight just stick in your head so much you forgot all the other fights, Dan? You just like all you can think of is Holloway and Pereira just KOing.
The Yuri Rakic fight definitely sticks out as well. Just Yuri's
That was crazy.
Yuri's refusal to defend leg kicks and just showing off like his granite chin shows why he's like so dangerous.
See, that's not even in my mind, that's not a granite chin. That's insane mental toughness that not many people have where they can, because like you said, he was not defending leg kicks at all. And it's like one of those things where you're in the octagon, but he like took his mind somewhere else. Like he like did not feel that pain because his leg was definitely in
Look,
pain and he
I
just
was I thought he was
refused.
done for. I was like, he's
Yeah.
fucked. I was like, he's absolutely done.
No, yeah,
Incredible.
100%. The mental toughness on that dude and the fortitude to just keep moving forward with that leg. And it felt like Rakic like had him. Like the whole like he like that first round, it felt like he like had his number and everything. And just that to just come through that was pretty insane. Yeah, that was definitely a really good fight for sure to watch. So yeah, we'll go post UFC 300, but I thought it was just nice to quickly reminisce on that card. But we get this card here, the nice fight night card. I don't know if the main event is going to be all that fun, but I think there are some fun fights on this card. I think there's definitely some live dogs, and it might look like a crap card, but I think when we get through it from a DFS perspective and a betting perspective, it's actually going to be somewhat of a fun card. So let's get into it here, Dan, and we'll start obviously. Let's just start at the bottom here with the first fight, and we'll kind of work our way up here and give our thoughts from a DFS and a betting perspective on these guys. We got Mashante and Benitez here. Mashante 8,800 on DraftKings and Benitez 7,400 on DraftKings here. We just saw, kind of similar with both these guys. Borshev just, finished Mashante last time out, which is no slouch, Slava. So I don't hold that really against him because I think Slava's an absolute animal personally. But Benitez is a different story here. He's not as young. He's fought a lot. He's definitely more of a UFC veteran. They're throwing at him to see what he's got. And this fight to me, Dan, feels like from a DFS and betting perspective, I feel like this fight is finishing for sure. That's my first, I feel like this fight finishes inside the distance. I feel like this fight comes down to Benitez in the pocket with Mashante. I think he's going to meet him in there. And I think someone's going down. I think someone's going to sleep in this fight. So I really like this fight for DFS. You got 7,400 and upside because Benitez definitely has power. He has the hardest leg kicks in the, probably division, or everyone says hardest leg kicks. And then I think Mashante has power too. So I do feel like someone's going to sleep in this one here. Tell me if I'm wrong.
No, I tend to agree with you. It's implied to probably end inside the distance. We've seen both of these guys get hurt. Mostly Benitez. I believe he's been knocked out in 3 of his last 4, and like violently at that. So, that's always a concern when it seems like a guy's chin is going to go. And Mashate, he's super low volume and his thing is power. So he's going to go out there trying to put Benitez's lights out. I think he does. I picked him to win inside the distance. 8,800 is a little tough. Like you're going to need a first round finish, probably a knockdown, just because got some pretty high finish odds, I believe. Up top, and also like some grapplers that have like pretty high ceilings, like Petrovic. So I am not like going to try to go overboard with Mashate. I'll probably come in around the field. I haven't finalized any of my stuff yet because it's early and we've got a couple hours to lock. So I'm still working through it. But at the moment, I'm having to really kind of brute force Mashate in there, which I wasn't expecting. But I guess the sims that I'm running really like Denise and Span a lot more. So I'm going to smooth that out, but Mashate actually not a priority, which I actually don't know about now that I'm looking at it. I think it's because one of the problems with him is he's so low volume that I think you could see, you can see this one go into the second round.
Here's the thing though with Benitez, he's gonna put pressure on him. Like he's gonna definitely come out and he's gonna, forward pressure and I think he's gonna bring the fight to Mashante. And Mashante, even though you're saying he's low volume, he will engage in a firefight. Like he will get caught. And I think this was his problem against Slava was he got caught in the pocket too much. Like he was trying to get in the pocket with them instead of just stick and move and use his footwork and stay on the outside, which I think is his path. Honestly, I think, against someone like Slava, he should have tried to do that more and he didn't. And he got caught. Dude, Slava had one eye. Like Borshev had literally one eye. He went back to his corner after round one and he said, you heard him say to his corner man, he goes, I can't see, because he had an eye poke in that first round. And he's like, I can't see out of this eye. And it was his lead eye. You know what I mean? So like the fact that he got put out with a dude who literally could not see out of one eye, it just kind of tells me that, at some points he has like a little bit more low IQ. And you can't tell me that Benitez doesn't have the power to knock him out. You know what I mean? And if he tries to do that with them, I think there's a likelihood that someone's going out here. So I'm gonna take shots on these guys, but my pick is gonna be Benitez here. I think he gets it done inside the distance. I think he knocks his lights out here. So that's my take. Who are you going with? Who's your pick for this fight?
I've got Mashate inside the distance.
Inside the distance.
Confused. I mean, like Benitez has been hurt so many times recently. It's hard for me to kind of overlook that. But I think at Benitez's price, he's obviously live, and I think at his price, like, even a second round finish will get it done for him. And he'll be a contender for optimal. I actually realize now why I'm getting no Mashate for whatever reason. So like his win probabilities and knockout probabilities were not pulling in to my sim. So
that makes sense, because I was gonna say to you, like, this definitely feels like a fight where you might want a piece of Mashante if you're 150. And so
I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is wrong, and yeah, it was. So I'm gonna fix that. We'll see what we get back here.
Yeah. Well, hey, all right. You're on the Mashante side. I'm on the Benitez side. One of us is going to be right at the end of the day here. So let's move to the next fight here. And honestly, to most people, this is probably a fight where they're like, I'm going to go get a beer and I'll be back towards the end of this fight and I'll just see who wins, Dan. But this is one of those fights for DFS. If you know Leanne Na at all, she brings the fight to you immediately. She is super low IQ. She is in your face from the get-go. And she's like one of those fighters. She's going to bring an optimal score, because one of these girls, I think, ends in the optimal here. Whether you think Petrovic wins or Na wins, I think this fight ends somewhat quickly. We've seen Na out of the first round once. And in that fight, she was severely hurt to the point where her stool man had to go, I think it was Song Yadong, had to go pick her up off the ground by the shoulders and bring her to the stool. That's how bad she was hurt. They almost stopped the fight. It was crazy. That fight was crazy. If you don't, if you want to see it, go watch the Carnelosi Na fight from, it was like 2 or 3 years ago. I forget. But that fight had some wild turns. So, obviously Petrovic is a big favorite here, but I'm okay with playing Na too, because I think her upside is there at 6,800, because she goes out there to try and get finishes. She's just, she is so aggressive that she ends up in bad positions, trying to go for arm bars and stuff like that. Like she's trying to finish girls early. And if she doesn't, she gets in bad spots and ends up getting finished in a lot of her fights. So, I think this is an optimal score for whoever wins. And I like this fight to end inside the distance, within probably in the first round, honestly. But if not the first round, the second round. And I think the girl who wins does major damage. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right on. Like Na Liang is the type of fighter that you love to target and also play. I mean, like you said, she's got kind of like the killer be killed mentality. This one probably doesn't make it out of the first round. If it does, Petrovic is probably in trouble in terms of like contending for the optimal, just because at 9,400, she's going to need probably first round takedown. But I mean, she's got the grappling upside. She seems to be much better. I expect her to be, you know, bigger, stronger. Yeah, like you mentioned, maybe possibly higher IQ. I'm not positive about that, but I mean, I picked Petrovic to win inside the distance.
I don't know if you can have a lower IQ than Liang Na. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Like if Petrovic has a lower IQ, then I would just bet Na for sure, because that spells 100% trouble here. But yeah, I get what you're saying, and
I mean,
I think it's gonna be a grappling match, honestly, because I think both girls are gonna try and throw to get close and get the wrestling or the grappling, and I think it's just whoever wins the positions in the grappling, the scrambles, because there's going to be a scramble, and whoever wins that is going to end up winning this fight here. So let's bring in our third co-host here, Mr. JBC, who is finally done. I won't say what JBC was doing, but he's finally done doing
you know what he was doing.
Yeah. Well, I know what he was doing, but I'm not going to throw it out. I'm not going to throw him under the bus like that, Dan. If he wants to do it himself, he can, but I'm not going to do that to JVC. What's up, JVC?
You know how the mornings go. Dan stayed in a hotel room with me before.
There you go. Right there. Just right into it. So that's how the morning goes. JVC, do you drink coffee? I never asked you that, I don't think. No coffee for you, really?
No. All I drink is water and booze.
That's it. Water and booze. All right. No coffee needed, I guess, for JVC. All right, JVC, we've only been through one fight. We're on the Petrovic-Na fight, which is the second fight. I just want to get your quick thoughts. I'm gonna bring it back here for a second and just get your quick thoughts on that first fight, and then we'll get your thoughts here on Na. But did you have a take on Ma Shante Benitez fight, or are you kind of indifferent on that fight?
I'm betting on Benitez, I believe.
Yeah, get in there with me. Let's go.
I think that they'll get in there and swing, and it might be a little higher variance than people are expecting.
Yep. All right, cool. That was kind of my take on that fight too. I think it ends pretty quickly. So me and Dan love this next fight, Petrovic and Na, just because of the way that Na kind of brings the fight to the fighter.
She's the GOAT.
And yeah, she's like the DFS GOAT, right?
She's the GOAT.
Even though she's not winning the fights, she's winning it for you.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
I love her.
So do you like her as a bet, JVC, or do you like this fight for DFS? What are you looking at?
Both. I think that it's basically what I just said about the other fight too. I think that the variance is so high with these women that getting that kind of big number on Liang Na is a gift. Like, because she could easily win off something stupid. I don't see how that is out of the question. So I do like her as a bet.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think she's a good betting spot just because she's gonna try and win, and if she doesn't, then obviously she's gonna put herself in a bad spot and get killed. And also I'm not sold that like Petrovic is like really, really good. You know what I mean? They threw in there against Carolina, and Carolina kind of just destroyed her, really. I mean, just on the feet. And then even in the clinch, Carolina was winning those battles a little bit too. Like, so this fight will tell you a lot about Petrovic, whether she's like any good at all. Because if she loses to Na, then she's definitely just terrible, and we should just get rid of her. But yeah, this is a good fight for DFS. Dan, who do you have winning this fight?
Petrovic.
All right, so Na, and Petrovic for Dan. We will go to the next fight here, Padilla and Lion Top. JVC, am I saying this correctly? How the hell do you pronounce that name?
It's got to just be Lon Top, right?
Lon Top. Okay, Lon Top. We'll go with Lon Top here.
Or maybe Young Top. Is he Hispanic?
What is it, Dan? What is it?
I thought Yontop, but he's Peruvian. I don't know if they.
Yeah, it's got to be Yontop then if it's.
Yeah, that sounds right. We're gonna go with Yontop then. Okay, so Padilla and Yontop here. Yontop is a -440 favorite, and I think Padilla is stepping up on somewhat short notice, maybe a week or so. Dan, talk about this fight here and who you like.
Yeah, I mean, this is like super short notice. DraftKings released the pricing, and then I think like hours later, Gabe Green, who was I think Jan Top's like second or third opponent up, like second or third replacement, he got he pulled out like right after the pricing came out. And they can't take back pricing on a guy once they've put it out. So Jan Top's at 8,200. His opponent Padilla's at 6,900. So it's like a really odd spread of salaries that you don't normally see. And that's all to say that Jan Top is an extreme value. He's like 78% to win, 64% inside the distance. It's going to be like a big decision point, whether you want to, go under on him, go over on him. I kind of lean on the side that he's one of the best plays, if not the best play on the slate. So I'm going to be, I'm going to be like substantially exposed to him.
This is a good point for DFS because I think this is one of the key DFS fights on the entire card here and how you play it. And JBC, I saw you shaking your head. So I assume you're going to be heavily exposed to this fight, especially Jan Top, but kind of talk about that a little bit because it does look like he's mispriced here with this line and everything.
Well, like Dan said, the prices were posted before his opponent was known because of the switch. I think that your choices here are do you go field or do you just shove it? And I think there is significant upside to just locking him and playing 150 on top lineups. I'm leaning toward doing that, but obviously there's downside there too because it's not like a minus 165 inside the distance. It's a great number for 8,200, but it's by no means a lock. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but I'm leaning toward locking him.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like the way this fight busts is it goes to the cards, and Jan Top wins a decision. It's kind of an uglier fight. I don't know, something like that. But guy stepping up on short notice, you would assume that like those type of fighters, maybe their cardio is not 100%. Even though this guy does seem like he's got some decent cardio from what I've seen. So maybe he can last. Even though those inside distance numbers are pretty big and stuff like that. So this is definitely interesting. It does seem like a fight where you got to make the choice. Either I think you're either way over, meaning almost jamming them or locking them, or you're under. I don't know about the field. With these type of fights, I don't know about like going the field. I think you want to either go way overexposed or be under in general. So that's kind of just my take on it. Well, Dan, where are you at right now? What do you think you're going to be doing? You think you're going to be under, field, or over?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I mean, I'm going to go with JBC on being fine with kind of being at the field because, I mean, this card, there's so much variance. I don't necessarily want to be like overexposed in any one spot, and I don't want I want to have like a good kind of like diversity of combinations, and I want to jam the main event. So I don't know what, I mean, his price makes it like less of an issue just because he's so cheap that you can really like vary what you kind of jamming around him. But if you're already jamming one fight, there are other fights that I like and other fighters that I like much more. Yeah. So we'll see how it shakes out, but I don't mind coming in like 50 if the field's going to be 50. I think that's fine.
JBC, where are you at? What do you think you'll be at right now?
60, 65.
So a little bit over,
which is like roughly the odds that he wins inside the distance.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that makes sense, and I still think, Dan, you could be 65% on him, 70% even, and jam that main event fight. Like I just at those price tags, I don't think that's gonna matter too much, honestly. So let's go to the next fight. It seems like we're all in agreement that this is a good fight for DFS, and you kind of want to plant your flag and be over on it. Let's go to Man and Souza here. Souza minus 340 favorite against Man, and personally, I don't think Man's very good. She wants to wrestle. I get why this line is high. It does seem like it's very kind of wide, though. I will just say that. Like, I get it being high. It just seems wider than I would have even thought. JBC, what do you think on Man and Souza?
Well, the line keeps going up. Like it's not like it was just high; it just keeps going. So I mean, that to me, maybe something's wrong with Man. Maybe Man just sucks worse than we think. But Souza's getting heavy steam, and I do like I like her to win, but I don't know that the fight's going to be very good for DFS.
Yeah, that's what I kind of agree. Like her winning by decision. How does that score for DFS at 9,200? You know what I mean? Like, does probably not that great. So I'm kind of with you here. I don't think I like either fighter for DFS. Dan, what do you think here? Is Man durable enough to get through a full fight here without getting finished?
No, I really don't think so. Man does not have the physical tools to compete in the UFC. Man is the worst fighter on this card by a wide margin, which is saying a lot.
She is tiny too, by
She's
the way.
horrible, man. And I think Souza finishes her pretty quickly. I have Souza at like 17% ownership, which feels a little high. I don't mind coming in at around like 15-20 on Souza because I think she might even come in around like 10, honestly. Maybe not. People will probably play just like against Man because she's so bad.
Yeah.
But I think she gets finished and finished quickly.
This is one of Dan's like trademarks here. He loves going for these chick fights when he knows that like people are gonna be under because both fighters is especially one, but both fighters aren't like as good. And for DFS, honestly, like most people hate when their chick is just doing nothing or punching at air and stuff. So they kind of stay away from these fights. So maybe it is a fight in 150. It's easy to get over if she comes in at 17% or something like that. JBC, could you get to the field on Souza at that ownership percentage? You're on.
Sorry. NBA is going on right now too. I think that if Dan's right in that it'll be very, very, very low. Like closer to 10 in my head because Petrovic, Uros, Denise, Span, Mahashate, people are going to go in that direction because the odds of finish are higher theoretically. So this is a classic Dan spot where you got a 10% owned chick that has very, very high upside because the opponent sucks so bad. So I understand what he's getting at, and I will probably end up over unintentionally.
Yeah, the more you guys talk about, the more for DFS, I think, and I didn't like this fight coming in, so I'm glad that like Dan brought it up here. But the more you guys talk, the more like it makes sense as a fight that like no one wants to be on, and then it ends up nutting in an early finish because Man does suck, and then you're optimal sitting there with the nuts, and only 10% have it. So I think you guys changed my mind a little bit, and I'm gonna go on in this fight a little bit. I'm gonna get some Souza in my lineups here. So we'll go Souza inside the distance.
There's also there's also upside if Souza doesn't finish. Like if Man can actually hang around longer than we think, but Souza just manhandles her and knocks her down a few times and gets a ton of control and grapples the shit out of her. Like, I think there are multiple paths for Souza to be
Dan, no. You sold me. Inside the distance. Don't move away from it. You just friggin' sold me on inside the distance. I just changed it on my sheet. We're going inside the distance. All right. She's going to get the finish here. So you sold me on that. Let's go to Yanni versus Henry here. Minus 395 here. Henry is. And Henry's one of those guys that like, he's not like someone that I'm worried about like power wise. He's high volume though, so good for DFS from that standpoint. But I don't know if he's gonna finish, Yanni. So I don't know about like maybe the plus 3.5 line because I could see like Yanni winning like some grappling exchanges and winning a round or something like that. So maybe I could see like a plus 3.5 at plus 140. I kind of like as a bet here. But JBC, who do you like in this fight? And do you have a bet on this fight?
So we're on the Lifty fight, you said?
No. Henry versus... Sorry. Yeah, that's all right. I get that.
Yeah, I mean, I
you
like.
got three sports going right now. You got three sports.
As a bet, I really, 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 really like Yaya. I think that the line is way too fucking high even now, and it opened higher, and it's just cratering. And I getting plus 335, which is what you can get right now. It's just it's too high for a fight that I think has a lot of variance in terms of result.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do feel like this one is definitely too high. And at least he has like a path. Like I could see a path to him beating Henry, like that nonstop.
I don't think Henry's that good.
Shooting. I don't either. And I think he's going to struggle with someone like Yanni, who's like literally just going to shoot and shoot and shoot. And he's going to be relentless. And we know the grappling's there. I know he didn't look great in his last fight, but like we know that he has this over Henry, I think. Henry wants to stand. He wants to be quick on his feet, move, stick, throw volume out there. And I don't think Yanni's going to play that game. I think he's going to try for his game. If he stuffs the takedowns, he stuffs the takedowns. But I don't know. Henry's not a guy that he's going to be worried about power-wise, right? Which makes it easier for like a nonstop guy shooting takedowns. Like you're way more, aggressive, especially when you got a guy who you're not as worried about throwing something super strong back at you. So this does feel like a fight that kind of suits him a little bit more. So I agree with you. I'm going to bet him at plus 330 or whatever you said. I think that's a strong bet. Dan, what are you seeing here from a betting and DFS side?
Yeah, I agree with the bet. Line's way too wide. I like Yaya as a play as well. He's an elite grappler. He's a specialist, which even though he appears to be outmatched in just about every other area, when you have like kind of the X factor of someone who's like so elite at one particular thing and such a specialist, like you can't ever rule out them, executing on their surest path to victory. So I think you gotta, like, it's not going to be hard to get to the field or over on Yaya. I love that. He's 6,700. Henry's not going to be that high owned, and I think that that's justified. Like, he doesn't have many peripherals outside of just being a high volume striker, which is great. But, at 9,500, it's going to be tough for him to pay off without a knockdown or an early finish, which isn't really his game. Like, his finishes are mostly outside of the first round because he just like breaks you with volume, which he could absolutely do. But is that going to nut at 9,500? I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. But you never know, depending on what other scores are put up in that price range. So, and like the dogs that win too, if some cheap dogs win, you might just need these studs.
He's projecting like same ownership as Petrovic, and I think Petrovic is.
I like Petrovic way more too. Like way more.
You think he's going to be that high?
Henry at 20.
Yeah.
Too.
That's good.
Yeah, I think he'll be that high too. What do you guys think? A sprinkle and a little plus 750 by submission for Yanni. I mean, he's got a bunch of submission victories. That seems pretty high for someone of his skills grappling. I'm just gonna say, like, if we like the bet, I'm saying sprinkle. You know what I mean? Just put a little cheese on it just for fun. That's a fun bet right there, I think.
Yaya's also, I have him at plus 725 to win by decision, and like,
yep,
he just finds ways to win. Like, you look at his fight history, and it's just like win somehow, some way. So
yeah, I like it. I think we're all in agreement there. Great bet from our eyes here. Let's go to a fight that honestly I'm not really excited to watch. You know what I mean? We got Machado versus Mays. This is one of those fights that does not really excite me. We had Machado lose I think it was a decision to Mick Parkin just recently here, where I honestly thought Machado won the fight, and I was on the other side of that fight. So I felt pretty lucky to win that bet because I did have a nice bet on Mick Parkin, but I definitely came out thinking like I stole that one. I got pretty lucky to win that fight. And Machado's now, a slight favorite, I think here, minus 115 against Mays. JBC, what are you seeing here with this line, and what is it kind of telling you on this fight?
This fight fucking sucks. Dude, I hate Dontel Mays. I hate watching him because you just see this. He's such a big motherfucker, and he just doesn't like. It's like he doesn't swing with all of his power. It looks like he's like trying to manage his cardio more than he probably should. You know, like I guarantee if he just like reared back and fucking went for it, he could have a lot more success. But you know, I guess that's just how it is. So I really, really like Machado in this fight for that reason. Dontel Mays, he's a point fighter at heavyweight. It's not my thing. I like Machado. You're muted.
Sorry about that. And I feel like this fight goes to decision here. So, you know, like it definitely feels to me like a fight that's going to the cards. Whoever you like, who you're betting on, maybe get a little better value. But that's kind of what the books are telling you too. Both these guys, best odds are to win, you know, by decision pretty much. So that kind of tells you all you need to know, honestly, about like a DFS match when you got two guys that are lower volume. One guy has not much power in Machado. Like I think Mays at least has power. He doesn't like JBC said, he doesn't like throw like he has all of it all the time, but he definitely has more power than Machado. So if this is a point fight, like this fight feels like it's definitely going to the cards. And I agree. I got Machado too here by decision. I think he got robbed last time out. I think he wins though this time out here. Dan, what do you got?
Yeah, we're all on Machado decision. I don't like Dontel Mays. I don't like Machado. I also thought Machado won that fight against Parkin, but I also don't think Parkin's very good. So it's like, you know, the only thing is you got heavyweights that are not projecting to be super high owned. I mean, like Mays up around 20. Like I'm happy to come in under that, but Machado at 15 is a little more interesting just because he throws volume and we don't like Mays. So, you know, same kind of, you know, same thing with like women's MMA heavyweights, especially low level heavyweights. It's very high variance. So if you can get one against a guy you don't like for, you know, low ownership, I don't hate that. But it's not exciting. This fight sucks.
Yeah, I just see so many fighters in that range, and I'm like, how the hell can I click either of these two guys over some of these other guys? Like, I get what you're saying with the ownership. I just feel like this fight's going to be a dud. So, you know, if you have a different take, it's probably going to be lower owned, like Dan's saying for DFS. I can't play this fight personally here. So
you probably don't need to go there.
Yeah, probably.
Yon Top's right there. Like it's like how do you click one of these two over Yon Top?
And how about the next fight? Like I don't know how you play the next fight. How do you not play the next fight of Hubbard and Figlak over this fight? Like I think at least both those guys have upside. You know what I mean? And we'll get into that fight here in a sec. But I just don't know how I could click even that fight over, you know, these guys here. So next fight on the card, like I said, Hubbard and Figlak here. Figlak a minus 180 favorite after coming off, I think, his first loss of his career here. I think they even said it was like the first time he lost like a round in a fight. But it was to Ziam, who's a good fighter. You know, honestly, he couldn't figure out the range of Ziam. The range was definitely getting to him. Ziam was picking him apart, leg kicks, you know, straights. And then when they got in close, Ziam's knees were killing him. He even took him down a few times. It was just a bad spot, I think, for Figlak, honestly. I don't think Figlak is a bad fighter. I think he's a solid fighter, actually. I think he just ran into a tough opponent. And I think this is a much better matchup for someone like Austin Hubbard, who is going to come out there. He's going to try and wrestle early. And what he kind of does is wrestles early, very hittable. You can get up. Even if he takes you down, you can get up with Austin Hubbard. So I think that's kind of what happens early. And then he kind of tires out as he gets through round one into round two. And I think that's where you can start like stuffing his takedowns. And on the feet, I just think Figlak is way better than Hubbard. Like he's got like actual power, I think. And if he's not afraid of what's coming back at him on the feet, which I don't think he will be with Austin Hubbard, I think he's just literally going to put the pressure on. This guy literally comes out like right in your face too. So he's going to be right in Hubbard's face from the start of this fight. and I think he finishes him. I'll say like second round finish. I think Hubbard tries to wrestle early. He gets tired. Figlak starts to, get up, stuff some takedowns, and then go to work on the feet and just piece him up and get a stoppage here. So, yeah, I'm on Figlak. I like him a lot for bet. Dan, who you on here, Figlak or Hubbard?
I'm on Hubbard. I'm basically just going with, a vet with experience who has not looked great, getting submitted by Kurt Hollabaugh. Not awesome. But, he was fully in that fight. He was even winning that fight, I would say, before that happened. But, yeah, I don't know. I just don't like Figlak. I don't like ZM. I don't think he's very good. And I didn't like what I saw in his debut against ZM. Now that could be like, debut jitters, whatever, adrenaline dump, what have you. So I could be totally off here, but I think also my view of this fight is kind of shaded by the DFS side, where I don't think Figlak, even in a win, pays off his price. I don't think he's going to be finishing Hubbard. Hubbard's never been knocked out. He's been submitted, obviously. Yeah, I just don't like Figlak. And I just think if you're going to play this fight, then I want the salary savings with Hubbard.
Casey, you're
all right.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I know. I was just messing with something here. JBC, Dan likes Hubbard. I like Figlak. Break the tie here. Who you got?
I'm with you. I Figlak's going to beat the shit out of him. I don't think he's going to knock him out. As Dan said, Hubbard's never been knocked out, so I'm not that interested in this fight from DFS. But I'm betting Figlak pretty big.
Yeah, I don't know if he knocks him out cold, but I do think he finds a stoppage at some point. I just don't think Hubbard, like the thing Figlak struggled with against Ziam. You can think all you want about Ziam's talent, but it was the length, it was the size, it was the height, and he was trying to get inside on him and he couldn't figure out how to do it. So he kept hitting air, throwing punches. He's not going to do that against Hubbard. Hubbard's not going to have that advantage. The reach is like one different. The height is pretty much the exact same. They're both five. Like, he's not going to have that type of advantage. I think it just means Figlak's going to have a much easier time of getting to Hubbard's face. And Hubbard is, defensively, striking wise, not very good. He's hittable. You know what I mean? You can hit him. You can hurt him. Maybe he's not going to get knocked out cold, but I do think he beats the crap out of him here. So, yeah, we'll be 2 for 1 here. Dan likes Hubbard. Hubbard by decision, Dan? Is that where you're going? Or you think he finishes him?
No, I've got Hubbard by decision.
The good thing with Hubbard by decision is if he wins a decision, he probably has takedowns. So for DFS, he might end up scoring okay, even a decision at 7,800. So I do think it's an okay fight, regardless of who you like to take a shot on for DFS, just me personally. But yeah, let's go to the next fight here on the card. I think personally, one fight that there's 2 fights here I'm really interested to watch. This is actually one of them. Tim Means, one of my favorite, just like dog fighters here against Urosh Medic. And, Medic is someone that I also kind of liked. I love them against Matthew Semmelsberger when everyone didn't, and everyone liked Semmelsberger, and he ended up finding a finish. This dude, if you stand at range with him, he is going to hurt you. His kicks, he throws lethal kicks, head kicks, body kicks. He almost folded Semmelsberger with one body kick. He was throwing head kicks for a lot of the fight, and then he threw one body kick, and he almost folded him with it. He's very dangerous. So, like, it's not someone that you want to mess around with at range. But one thing that Tim Means does really good, and why I think Tim Means is live in this fight, is his clinch work. When he gets in the clinch, he throws elbows. He gets friggin' dirty in there. And I think you need to be able to clinch and close that gap with someone like Medic, not stand at range, which was one of Semmelsberger's biggest problems, because Semmelsberger knocked him down in that fight, but he couldn't figure out how to finish him early. And I think if you stand with him for 3 rounds and just say, I'm going to stand with you at range, and I'm just going to, fight with you like that, he's going to pick you apart and end up really hurting you, Medic, at some point and probably finishing you. But if you got someone like Tim Means, experience, I know he's been finished, I know he's a little older, but I think experience on his side, I think he can figure out how to get inside on Medic, get into that clinch position where he does really good damage. And I think he's very live to win here. I like him at plus 240, and I already threw a bet on him here. I'm on Tim Means, but I think this is a great fight. I think it's a fun fight for DFS here. JBC, who are you on for Medic and Means?
I have the exact opposite take of you on this. I think that Medic is just going to go out there and beat the shit out of him, knock him out first round. I don't see him having any trouble. I really want to go in hard on Medic in DFS. Means I've got no interest in. I think he gets destroyed, and that's that.
All right. JBC likes Medic. Dan, break the tie here. Means and Medic, who are you on?
I'm with you on Means. I think Means is better everywhere. I think Medic, we've seen him get hurt. The fact that Semmelsberger didn't finish him is like incomprehensible. He's been hurt before then too. And I think if this goes to the mat, Medic isn't going to have anything for Means. And like, yeah, I think the exact opposite of JBC. I think Means wins inside the distance. I think he can hurt him, and I think he will.
You're going to know right away if Means has the correct game plan. Because if he's just if that first round you watch him just standing at range with Medic, JVC's probably right, and he's going to get killed. Like he's probably going to get his head knocked off. But if he closes the distance, if he closes the distance, like me and Dan, I think he's going to do, and try and get this to the mat or clinch battle, I think he's way more live than this number, and I think he's got a good chance to win. So, all right, that's 2 for 1. Me and Dan on Means. JVC's on Medic by hospital.
The Medic is going to send him to the hospital.
Yeah, that goes pretty good, actually. So let's go to the next fight here. This is the other fight that I'm very interested to watch. We got Jonathan Pierce versus David Onama. I love David Onama. I love him.
David Onama rules, dude.
Dude, he's awesome, bro. I actually like this matchup for him as a dog here. He's plus 120 right now. Pierce is a minus 142 favorite. Pierce, nonstop wrestler. Onama is someone, though, that I think we've seen grow over his first few fights and learn, especially from the Nate Landwehr loss, where this guy would come out and in the beginning, he would just try and kill people and throw everything at the wall in the first round and a half. And then he'd death gas. And even when he death gassed, though, like he'd still he'd still be throwing. Exactly. Like, so it's not like he's down and out even when he gasses, but I think he's starting to figure it out. And if you watch like his last fight, it kind of showed to me when watching the last fight, like he showed a lot against Santos, where Santos even got him down. He didn't panic when he got down to the ground. He found a way to, reverse, get up. And I think that's something that he's going to use because Pierce is going to try and wrestle with him. And I think in scrambles, in positions, he can reverse, get to his feet. And in the striking, this is night and day. Like Jonathan Pierce hasn't fought, in my opinion, a striker that's going to strike with him, besides Brito maybe, like David Onama. So to me, on the feet, David Onama all day wins this fight. If he can keep this, or I think he could even submit him too if he can reverse a position. But on the feet, I definitely think Onama wins. I like Onama. I'm on another dog here. JVC, it sounds like you're on Onama with me, but tell me why.
I think he's going to destroy him on the feet. Like like you were just saying, like I really think he's got the advantage on the feet. I don't understand why he's an underdog in this fight. I think he should be favored, and I think he wins by knockout.
Yeah, 100%. For DFS, JVC, I would assume this is a fight you got to be heavy on, right? Because Jonathan Pierce, if he did win, it's got to be a wrestle heavy, probably decision win, which could score well.
Well, I mean, he's got fairly good inside the distance odds for his price too. I definitely am going to have a good amount of both of them, but and I think Onama is the superior play.
Yeah, I think this is a great. This is another DFS fight to target. This is a great fight to be over. Over on the field on just in general. But I'm with you. I want to be more on Onama than Pierce. But if you're like 150ing, I think this is a fight to be heavy on for sure. Dan, what are you seeing here with this fight, and who you like?
Yeah, I picked Pierce, but I agree with you guys. I love this fight for DFS. It's probably my favorite fight for DFS and to watch, honestly. Like, whoever wins, I think wins like with a smash score, and that's either going to be Onama knocking Pierce out, or it's going to be Pierce, like chain wrestling, multiple takedowns, ground and pound, possible finish. There's so many ways for this fight to nut that I just want to be all over it.
All over the nut.
All over the nut. I regretted it as soon as I said it. But,
this is one of those fights I might go all in on, honestly. All in on the nut for Dan. I'm with Dan on all in on this fight. So I'm with you here. I'm gonna.
Yeah, I'm like, how does this bust? The only way it could bust is if Onama wins a decision. Otherwise, it's gonna nut.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's the only way.
The only way.
The only way.
I mean, if Onama wins a decision, this fight is a fucking shit show. So he actually
just a counterpoint though, like in the Nate Landwehr fight, right? Like he scored 52 in a loss. So if you gave him like 80, right? Like you put 80 on him, he's 7,600. It might not be optimal, but you would take, I think 80, like just, straight up if you had to at 7,600. It's not like a terrible score, right?
Yeah. But we're trying to win big prizes, baby.
I got you.
Not that 80.
Hey, listen, this fight's finishing, JVC. We're on it. He's getting his head knocked off.
Hospital. Another guy in the hospital.
Yeah, hospital. Hopefully Onama can call the medic and get Jonathan Pierce to the hospital early. All right, let's go to the big boys here. We got Lane, we got Denise. Denise 9K and Lane 7,200 here. Denise off his knockoff win in the Contender Series is 6-0 in his career. I think he had some time as a professional kickboxer too, if I remember correctly. Could be wrong on that. But we know Austin Lane. He just got knocked out by Mr. Tafa, who I think we love. That was an easy bet here. Guy likes to crash the pocket. Can't do that against someone like Tafa. The question is Denise that type of guy too that you can't just crash with and bang? Because he looks like he could be that type of guy. His Contender Series fight, I thought he just looked, kind of okay, honestly, even though he got the finish. I didn't think he looked like unbelievable, but he definitely looks like he packs a literal punch like crazy. And that could spell trouble for someone like Austin Lane. Dan, I see you shaking your head here. I'm assuming you like Denise.
Yeah, I mean, Denise's Contender Series opponent was, didn't put up all that much resistance, not very impressive.
He was doing this with his hands. He would swing and miss, and then he was like, put your hands up. This dude is crazy powerful. What are you doing?
Yeah, not a ton to take away from there, honestly. But you mentioned his kid. He's like a former Glory kickboxer. He's got a pretty substantial kickboxing resume. Has fought and beaten a lot of good guys in Glory. So he's got like a pretty high level striking pedigree. Austin Lane does not have that. Austin Lame. The guy sucks. He's athletic, former football player, but he is not a fighter. Like he does not. He don't belong in there, man. He don't fucking belong in there. I think Denise hospital.
Denise calling the medic too, I guess. JVC, I gotta assume you're with us here on Denise.
Yeah, Denise is sending him to the hospital for sure. Although I will say this, because they're big boys and they're going to swing. I mean, Austin Lane, his implied odds of getting a finish here, like mid-20s, it's like that's better than some of the other people down in his price range. So you could definitely do worse than picking Austin Lane, because it opens up a lot of lanes for your lineup. but I think Denise is going to put him in the hospital.
Yep. I think this was fairly straightforward one here. I do think someone's getting finished, and I do think that someone is Austin Lane. But, good fight for DFS to target. 9K for Denise. Seems like a very good play, especially if he gets the early finish. But, if it does take a little bit, that's where you're like, okay, at 9K, are you guys going to be crazy over on him for DFS, or is he someone you're like at the field with?
It's tough because he's right there with Ryan Spann and Medic as far as the price point. And it's like you want them all. They're all good plays and they're all about the same odds to win. Inside the distance. It's going to be hard to get over on one without sacrificing some on the others. So it's going to be a tough build.
Yeah, Dan, are you higher on him than some of those other guys JBC talked about, or kind of at the field?
No. So I've got Denise currently slightly under on him. He's a great play, but there are so many options, and I think even the slam dunk plays on this slate are not slam dunk plays. They all are highly questionable. So I'm really most weeks there are guys that I get pretty heavy on, and Denise fits that mold of a guy that I go over on usually. But I don't know. I think this week, looking at it and as we're talking through it, I'm probably going to favor a more diversified kind of flat approach outside of maybe Ryan Spann and the main event.
Yeah, you're big on diversifying right here. You're big on the diversified portfolio. Dan likes diversifying.
Yeah, this week because it's there's always variance, but there's just there's so many unknowns with this card that I don't think anybody is specifically or particularly worth heavily investing in.
Trying to figure out who's going to score the most between Petrovic, Medic, Denise, and Spann is like flipping a coin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of those fights that you said, the dogs have outs, you know what I mean? Too. So it's not like those guys are, I don't feel like any of them are for sure. Maybe that's my question to you guys is there one guy that you just like over the rest? You feel more confident in, or do you just see them in the same light? All those guys you just listed, you think are all almost the exact same plays?
I think there's lower downside on Spann because he's a better fighter. But we sat here and talked all this shit about Austin Lane. It's would it really shock you if he just landed one shot and won? No. But I would be surprised if that happened to Ryan Spann.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right. So, yeah, maybe we're a little more comfortable with Ryan Spann. Probably just because, though, we've seen Ryan Spann fight how many times. So
Denise, it's just a higher quality of fighter.
Yeah, Denise, we haven't seen fight that much. He hasn't really fought that much. He's only 6-0. So, we just don't know as much with him here. But let's get to, the next fight here. We've got now on DraftKings, it says Silva versus Silva, obviously Karine Silva, but we're going with Lipski here. We're calling her Ariana Lipski for the sake of this show, so we're not confused. And you got Silva versus Lipski here. Silva is favored. Dan, I talked with you before we hopped on the show about this fight, and we were pretty in line about this fight, I think. So to talk about it a little bit and who you're on.
Well, yeah, so this fight's interesting because Lipski, she seems to be vulnerable in the place where Silva, her bread and butter, which is submission grappling. But like we talked about before the show, Silva, her submissions kind of just seem to she lets them come to her. She's not, she's not actively, she's hard to evaluate because she hasn't been out of the first round. And a lot of these submissions seem to just kind of fall into her lap. And that Lipski is weak with the submission grappling defense, but she recently the switch has flipped and she's constantly improving. So it's really a question of like how much has Lipski's defensive grappling improved, and like how good is Silva really? Like, so it's a tough one, but I think this is, you know, it's like it's between this and the like Petrovic Liang fight on which women's fight I like more. I think I like Petrovic Liang more, but like Silva Lipski is close there. I could see a lot. Like I could see this devolving into chaos. Like
yeah, I definitely like the Petrovic fight with you more than this fight from a DFS perspective. If I had to pick one fight, but I do think that this fight could be optimal easily, and I like Silva for sure in this fight. Her upside to finish.
Really well too.
Yeah, I mean, she's 8,500 and she's finished all 3 of her fights in the first round by submission, and they don't feel forced either. Like a lot of times when you see people who finish in the first round early, you're like, okay, they're going for broke, or they're just throwing everything at the wall. It doesn't feel that way with her. So it's like I'm not as worried if it did get out of the first round as maybe some people are. But like I definitely like her in this fight. I think she's actually good. I think this fight is going to kind of show how good she is, because if she does handle Lipski kind of easily and finishes her early, I think it's definitely going to show that she's actually really good. So I'm on Silva for sure here in this fight. JBC, who do you like in this fight?
This is my largest bet on the card, and it's on Silva. She started
which Silva?
Carini Silva.
I was just getting it for the show.
Dan spoke on this a bit, but it is a matchup problem for Ariane Lipski. And, they say styles make fights, and I do not see this getting out of the first round. I think Carini Silva submits her right off the bat, and that's just how it's going to go.
Yeah, I like it. I think she finishes her somewhat early too. So I'm with you. Dan, who do you have winning this fight?
I have Silva inside the distance. And also just one other note like about Lipski is I think she's going to be a little more popular than I'm even projecting her for, because I've seen, a lot of people are picking Lipski. She's like a very popular dog pick. Whether that translates to DFS ownership, maybe not, just because, people have their aversion to women's MMA. But yeah, I mean, I wish I had a better handle on if she was going to come in higher, because then I would, whenever there's a popular dog, I love to just I will jam the favorite that people are, kind of passing up.
Yeah, I bet
that's your fucking Jonathan Pierce pick. Is jamming the against the dog everybody's gonna love.
Yeah, because everyone's got to be on David Onama.
Yeah,
for sure.
And also Means over Medic too. Like everybody, Medic is gonna come in quite a bit higher than Means.
Yeah, I think people probably love I bet you people probably love that plus 3.5 on Lipski or something like that, like taking a shot with that type of bet. I just don't like it.
She gets dusted.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening too.
So. Hospital.
Yeah, I don't know about hospital.
Maybe not hospital.
Maybe she snaps her leg though, JBC.
True.
Yeah,
bar, hospital.
You never know.
It's
bar.
Be nasty.
Yeah, no, definitely. All right, let's go to last 2 fights here on the card. We got Span and Gustav. Span obviously
hospital.
minus. What's it?
Hospital.
This is a hospital one. All right. Well, Span's minus 192. Dan seems very confident on his pick here, so I don't even know who his pick is. Dan, who do you like here?
No, the pick is someone is going to the hospital.
Someone is going to the hospital.
Someone's getting knocked out violently.
Well, you got to give me a pick now. You can't just say someone's going to the hospital. You got to tell me who.
I'm on Span. I mean, he's better everywhere. Guskov is not good. He keeps his hands he thinks he's Bobby Green, I think, the way he keeps his hands low, but he is not Bobby Green. And I think Span's going to knock him the fuck out.
Bro, this dude, what has he done? He beat Zach Pauga, who's awful. And what's funny about that fight
was losing too. He was losing before he caught him.
What's funny about that fight, because I remember, because this was a closely lined fight. I think Guskov actually was a dog. I might be wrong on that. I think it was a close, but I think he was a slight dog, and I did like Guskov to win. But I remember watching it, and I'm like, oh my God, I picked the wrong fight. I picked the wrong side of this fight. I couldn't believe it because he was fighting Zach Pauga.
I was on Pauga.
Dude, he's like, I don't know how you can bet Guskov here. I don't. I get that he's got some power. Maybe he catches Spann, maybe, but that's his like only shot. I think Spann's just better everywhere. And I think he finishes them too. So whether it be by submission or, stoppage, I like Spann with you. JBC, who are you on here?
Yeah, I'm betting Spann pretty big. I don't really understand the line very much either, but I will say among that range, the 7,400, 7,300, 7,200, other than, him and Guskov and Austin Lane for DFS would be the two to target for me, just because there is upside there. He could get the finish, but I think that, Hospital.
Yeah, you're just taking a shot like that. They're both going to go swinging. They're going to go out swinging.
Out of those guys in that range, somebody's scoring. They're probably not all going to lose.
Yeah, I mean that's how I would look at it too. You know what I mean? Just I guess take a shot and someone. Even though I do like some dogs on this card, so I might not be doing it, but I get your point of like those guys at least have like upside to finish in round one.
I can see how they would win for sure.
Yeah, and win early too, right, JVC? Like it's possible.
Oh yeah.
I just don't think Guskov's any good, and I don't think he's winning. So that's my take. I think that's a straightforward fight here. Dan, are you jamming that fight?
Currently, yeah, I've got it at like projected at 60 total ownership. I'm coming in like nearly 80 right now. I might tone that down.
You a cat guy? You a big cat guy?
Yeah, buddy.
How many cats you got?
I have 2. And also I have like the only kind of everybody else's backyard in my neighborhood, they've just like kind of paved over, and my shit is just like an actual yard that I kind of just let like naturally grow. I got like a cat house out there. I feed some of the neighborhood cats. I'm just an animal guy overall.
You're a big cat guy. Yeah.
Well, I live right by the park, so I think people like dump cats that they don't want in the fucking park, and then they come down here. So there's kind of a lot of them.
Catman Dan.
Yeah. Dan's taking care of the neighborhood cats. So what a good guy Dan is, taking care of the neighborhood cats. All right, let's go to the main event here on this card and talk about it. I do think this is not going to be a very entertaining main event. Now, still, if someone wins for the main event, that's not saying they couldn't be optimal, but I could see a path to where this fight is not optimal easily. Now, maybe a lot of people feel that way, and it could bring ownership down. And I bet that's what Dan's going to talk about here in a second. But I just don't love this. I don't like these two fighters that much. I don't like targeting these two fighters. But I understand that their price tags, 5 rounds, one of them could have upside here if someone got a finish. But Dan, talk about this fight and why you love it.
Yeah, I mean, I love it because it's a 5-round fight and it's not going to be 100% owned by the field. It's really simple as that. It's just like a process thing, more rounds, more in-fight actions, just more chances for scoring. And if people aren't going to go there, then I'm going to be there heavily. As far as who wins, I think it's NICOLAU. I've got concerns about PEREZ and his health, honestly. Just so many cancellations, so many problems with the scale at 125. I don't normally even watch these, but I turned on my TV the other day and one of the suggested like YouTube tiles was like ceremonial face off for the card. It was like 6 minutes. I was like, fuck it, I'll pop it on. Like everybody obviously goes like shirtless, or the ladies in like their tops or whatever. But PEREZ like went up there in a hoodie. Dude like tried to stop him before he walked up on the stage to be like, hey, like take the hoodie off. And he just like full ignored him, walked onto the stage with the hoodie on. It was like kind of weird. Try not to put too much stock in shit like that because, obviously you see people look terrible on the scale and come out and be great. And also see them look great on the scale and come out and be fucking terrible. So I don't want to read into that too much. I don't know if either of you guys have an opinion on that. But all that to say, I do like going pretty much 50-50 on this fight. I think either guy can win. I think either guy can score. And the field's not going to be there as much as I think they should be.
Yeah. I don't know how much stock I put into that specifically, what you were talking about, but I get what you're saying a little bit. JBC, do you have a take on this fight? Who wins? Who do you like, Perez or NICOLAU?
I think I have a similar opinion to Dan in that I think Perez is the better fighter, but he's had so many issues, and I'm worried about his health, and the weight cuts, and it just so many issues ever since because he was winning the fight against Figueiredo before he got guillotined, and ever since that happened, his life has been on a downward trajectory. It's a wild story. But that said, he is the better fighter, and he is at a plus number. So I don't hate the bet on Perez, but I don't have a super, super strong opinion about it because of the health issues. As far as DFS wise, little guys, 5 rounds, one of them's getting 120. It's just how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, it is funny when you look at who Perez has fought. You know what I mean? When you just go through the names and stuff, you're like, damn, he fought some serious dudes. Yeah, I mean, this dude, and then obviously the health concerns are what they are. You know what I mean? They were serious. I didn't think Makayev was definitely better, but I didn't think he looked terrible against him his first fight back. I didn't think he looked great either. I just, I think Makayev's a very good fighter. But
they were just punishing him for all the withdrawals to put him in there with Makayev.
At the time, I thought Perez won. I might have been biased because I'm pretty sure I was fading Makayev that night. But
no, I thought the fight was closer than people said it was.
I agree with you guys, and I think that's coming to my point of I'm going to go Perez here to win in this fight. I think he is closer to the better fighter at a dog price, and he's 7,500. The health concerns, you know what you're getting though with him. You know what I mean? They are what they are. But I'm going to take a shot here on the dog. Again, 7,500. I think it is a very close fight. I think it goes to the cards most likely, honestly. But at 7,500, even in a 5-round fight at 7,500, he could score, very well in a win. So I'm going to take a shot with Perez. JBC, who's your pick? If you got to pick one, is it Perez or was it NICOLAU? I can't remember.
Perez.
Dan, who do you got?
I've got NICOLAU.
All right, we're split 2-1. That is all of the fights here on this card. Let's give our favorite bet of the night before we get out of here. Dan, do you have a favorite bet, something that you're going to go really heavy on this card?
I think well, not heavy, but I like we talked about before. I like Yaya by sub, man. I think that's a great bet.
Love that. I think that's a very, very interesting bet here. JBC, I know a few of your favorite bets, but give us one. Give us your favorite. If you could only bet one fighter on the card today, who is it going to be?
Karini's that should lock it up.
Carini, lock it up. I like it. I like Carini too a ton here. So I'm going to go with my favorite, my man, David Onama, 7,600, putting the lights out here at dog money.
Hospital.
Give me David Onama, buy medic, buy hospital, buy whatever, sends him out on a stretcher. Let's go. Let's roll here. We're going to have all our core plays up. All our picks are up on the sheet, I think, already, or most of our picks are up on the sheet.
I'll have mine up in a little bit.
JBC is going to be posting his bets in the Best Bets Discord. I already saw the NBA stuff go up. MMA bets will be up. I'm going to post my MMA bets too on the site as well. So we'll have all the bets up for you guys. All the DFS. Use code RPS15. Get you 15% off your first month's payment over at Rempier Sports. Come hang out with us in the Discord. Talk the fights, sweat the fights, and all the other sports we've got. We got single sport packages as well now over at Rempier Sports. If you want to get in for the NBA playoffs, the remaining time there. If you want to get MMA, golf, NASCAR, Single sport is here. If you guys want it, we got it. Come check us out. RPS 15. Hit the like button on your way out of here. For Dan and JBC and myself, we'll see you guys next week for another week of fights. Till then, we're out.
Fuck
Peace.
Mangone.